Hello and welcome to Wolters Kluwer Global Growth Market brand new series, Leaders Talk. Wisdom unveiled with industry veterans, and what better than starting that series with one of our pharma industry stalwarts, Mr. Sanjiv Navangul, the Managing Director and CEO of Bharat Serums. He leads BSV, one of the fastest growing biopharmaceutical companies in India, and has been ranked amongst the top 10 India biopharmaceutical companies. Mr. Navangul has served on the board of Johnson & Johnson Private Limited India, Full Ford India, and has held several leadership positions across his 30-year career, such as Managing Director of Janssen in India and South Asia, Managing Director for MSD Pharmaceuticals, Philippines, Commercial Director for MSD India and South Asia. He is recipient of several industry awards on public health, marketing and diversity. Mr. Navangul has also served as the Vice President of OPPI from 2014 to 2019, Chairman of AmCham Pharma Committee from 2016 to 2019, and Chairman Medical and Regulatory Committee from 2016 to 2019. He's been on the academic board of NMMIS Pharma Management, IES Management School, and IIHMR Jaipur. Sanjiv, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation, and
My
it's
pleasure.
our privilege to hear from you on the expertise and the insights that you've garnered over a very fulfilling career in the pharma industry. And we're starting this conversation on how do we take forward the digital transformation in healthcare, a topic that is so suitable for your inputs. So we look forward to making a lot of understanding onto this topic and how can we truly transform the digital health landscape in India. But before that, I think we need to start by getting to know Sanjiv a bit better. So Sanjiv, are you ready for some quick rapid fire question and answers?
Sure.
All right.
At best I can fail, so it's okay.
All right. So Sanjiv, a tech that's must in your life.
Tech that is must. I think, all of us are glued to our mobile, so I think that's probably the big tech that I use, yeah.
All right. What do we find Sanjiv busy with when not creating new products for healthcare?
I think very funnily nothing connected with healthcare. I think I read a lot and I listen to a lot of music, so or enjoy sports. I think
Fantastic.
very different from
What sport that would be?
all sports actually.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. Great. What's your work-life balance, Sanjiv?
So I have this switch in my mind of switching off and switching on. So whenever I am at work, I am at work. And whenever I leave work, I have nothing to do with work and I am at home.
Wow, that's
So,
fantastic.
Yeah, I think this is a cultivated habit, not a natural habit, but it's worked now.
Some of us would have to learn that from you, clearly. Your favorite vacation spot?
It's actually two places. One, my home.
Nice.
And secondly, I like forests. So forests in India or the country trails in the US, Yosemite, those kind of places. Yeah.
Nice. This is a different Sanjiv. I mean, what we hear and read about you on social media, definitely we got to know you much better today. So thank you so much for answering. Now we'll move on to our topic, which is essentially on digital health. And Sanjiv, you've been in the industry for 30 years. You've seen it all. You've seen how we have moved from, skewed ratios of patient to doctor to probably creating some world-class facilities and creating some marvelous scenarios in how are we tackling the pandemic as well. How do you think the healthcare ecosystem, pharma companies, hospitals, and tech companies could all come together to truly take forward the charter on digital health for the country?
Yeah, I think this is a transformative question, first of all. And I'll make an attempt to answer your question. I still, when I can't operate my mobile, call up my daughters in US and UK and ask them what is happening. So that's my, capability. But, but actually, the biggest thing that we can improve in healthcare today is outcomes. And patient outcomes is probably the only feature that is important. We have come a long way in discovering and inventing care and treatments. We've come a long way in doctor expertise. We obviously have a huge tech leap that is happening all over the world. But unless all this combines into ensuring that we are able to deliver better patient outcomes, means nothing. And the collaboration therefore has to be based on patient needs, disease needs, treatment needs, and not on what IT companies want or pharma companies want or what doctors want. I think that is not something that is relevant as much as all stakeholders trying to ensure that we deliver better patient outcomes. And there are very many ways of doing it. There are very many ways of doing it. I'll go to the back end of the story to answer maybe for a minute is look at clinical trials. First of all, whatever we promise to as patient outcomes or patient results out of a drug is what we do in clinical trial settings. Real life settings are very different.
Very different,
Yeah.
yes.
So, how do you bridge that gap then?
Right.
And you can only bridge that gap if you make patients more aware, you make doctors more aware, you understand the real life settings, you understand what can change, and therefore graduate to a point where all these different forces come together to ensure that you create that environment for the patient to literally feel like a clinical trial environment. So that's in a very simplistic term,
Sure.
you can, if you are able to do that, and today the power of everything together is possible.
It is very much. Right.
Very much possible. And I was actually shocked at what technology can do because last week I was with one of India's biggest cybersecurity experts, Amit Dubey. Yeah, and you might know him. I came to know about him that day. But the amount of capability that he demonstrated in AI and the way he talked about quantum, I was so impressed, saying that why can't our patients get a better deal out of this then?
And Sanjiv, the latest is we landed on moon
Yeah.
just yesterday.
Yeah.
So what's stopping us from actually taking that vision of creating the better patient outcomes
Exactly.
to a reality?
Exactly.
And then I think I must say I'm very, very humbled by the fact that you as an industry veteran are also looking at the final outcome on patient outcomes, and it doesn't matter how each element is contributing to that cause. We have to be true to that cause. And I think that leads me to my next question, which is about, you spoke about the greatest advantage, creating better patient outcomes. What are the obstacles that you feel are out there right now, even in today's world, that is preventing us from creating that digital health spectrum in its entirety?
It's a very interesting question because the industry, pharma industry or the medical industry thought that, we can do everything on our own, which they are not able to do. Yeah. Doctors thought that they can,
Feed all the
manage
patients.
everything. Yeah?
Yes.
It has not happened. Yeah. Tech companies thought that they can get into health and do everything. Google has launched health company thrice and all the time failed, basically. So it is not possible for all these people
To
to
operate in
deliver
silos.
anything on their own.
Yes.
And that the unnerving factor is that it is taking some time for them to realize that they all have to work together in this. Imagine if you have a situation where, I'll give you a very interesting situation where, in a dangerous situation, that look, a person is probably on the verge of getting a cardiac arrest and is at home. Now, the distance between him and the hospital or her and the hospital is X distance. That will take Y amount of time to reach.
Right.
But would technology allow us to ensure that whoever is around him or her deliver
Can support
necessary
during that.
help, and can a drone be nearby to deliver necessary medicine? Now, if that is done, because that's the golden hour, and in golden hour, if you can save the patient, it's fine. I think hospital can take care of the patient later on very well. So there are immense possibilities. I gave probably a very risky situation as an example, but there is so much possibility to do. Secondly, I think and this is probably the crux of the issue, is that we are seeing how quickly a patient has turned into a consumer.
Right.
And all the behavior of consumer behavior are now the traits of a patient.
Yes.
And if that journey the patient has gone into, as a consumer, he or she wants to be more aware and take charge of his or her life in their own hands. And if that is the case, then an aware patient, help patient, technology assisted patient is going to deliver far better outcomes for himself or herself on their own. Look, I always give this example because I did work a lot on digital health maybe 15 years ago on diabetes.
Sure.
Yeah, and the factor that in diabetes, any medicine you get to innovate or bring to the market, the approval always states in addition to diet and exercise, this drug will help you control diabetes or can be used in these diabetic conditions. So therefore, even today, diet and exercise is still rated ahead of medicines. And if that is the case, then the patient has to take charge or the consumer has to take charge of their own health. And that a doctor or a pharma company is unable to do. It has to be technology enabled.
Got it. It's a very thought-provoking scenario to actually, and something very real also. It's not that you can't really move forward with this idea, but it also brings me to another spectrum, Sanjiv. We're talking about patients as consumers and probably even leveraging the advantage of technology to improve the final outcomes on their own disease path or so. But let's shift back the conversation to HCPs.
Yeah.
I know BSV and you have been leading the pack in terms of setting really high standard platforms for doctors in terms of enhancing their knowledge, because the scenarios are changing. A patient's condition 10 years ago to what kind of factors are impacting that is completely different. The environment is different. The drugs are different. The combination of all that is different. And there's so much that's changing as a landscape in the medical education itself. You've been disseminating a lot of high quality content and high quality scientific research to your associated HCPs. In an increasing digital world, where do you really see that this technology platform can truly make an impact in creating a scenario of always up to date on information that's relevant to diagnose the patient appropriately? So any thoughts on that, Sanjiv?
It's probably something on my mind for some time, and we have made maybe baby steps right now, but I'll give you a design that I think of.
Sure.
And I think of a design in especially in women's health, which is maybe core to our company. And I think of a design where all necessary basic knowledge is already available in an environment which is password enabled, so that you only ensure that the right people have access to information. But yeah, so with security controls, let's say. Password is not the right word, security controls, yeah. But that information is available, and all over the place it is available. Secondly, as I always say that, the lecture delivered in IIT Mumbai on physics would be of a different grade than a lecture delivered somewhere in the interiors of India by some other professor in physics, yeah. And this is no qualitative comment on any professor, but it's just the amount of knowledge that person holds.
Knowledge, absolutely.
So therefore, knowledge equivalence can be created by having the IIT professor's lecture available to everybody. So can I get all over the world best experts to be available for that knowledge that is required in one place, in technology? Secondly, is the fact that doctors or medical community want to chat with their own community for patient specific conditions.
Right.
can you create a controlled environment by which this is freely done on a platform where they are able to talk to each other, saying that, okay, this is my case, this is your case, what do you think, do you think any treatment changes are required? The third part is that can patients be also part of the forum where they are able to ask questions without any judgments being passed on them? That, why this simplistic question is coming in. Does that platform allow any patient to come in or any probable patient to come in and inquire, okay, I have this worry, I have that worry, can you solve this for me? And they get the right advice from the right professionals. Yeah, so right professionals can join in that. The other one is that a patient can choose the time and place of exchanging what they need to ask doctors.
Right.
Can they set up their appointments based on that? Why do they need to? In India, travel is a cost.
It is.
Yeah, or travel is also time. Yeah, and time is cost. So everything, if you say,
translate
if you can
to
say,
cost.
yeah,
Yes.
if you can say that, that if that engagement can be done through that platform. The next one is the continuation of therapy, keeping the patient on therapy and ensuring that the patient takes the full therapy. All that can be technology enabled in terms of reminders, in terms of support. Any other thing which is outside the horizon of the doctor, can you do that? The other thing is that you will also find that doctors don't have enough time, and to create efficiency for doctors, you need to have other systems that can do professional counseling.
Right.
Yeah. For example, we deal in fertility. Fertility couples need a lot of counseling. The family needs counseling. Why should it be dumped on the doctor when the doctor has time or doesn't have time? Can there be a support system to the doctor that can provide that consulting services through the same platform? So, this kind of design, and there are many more ideas on the design, but if we create that kind of platform and which we want to create, then it becomes a wholesome platform where everybody can participate, and then it is not about your business, my business or somebody else's business, it is everybody's business. Yeah, and each one can come in and actually share their expertise. Yeah, and okay, the commercial delivery of such a platform is something which I have not yet thought of, because unless you think of a right concept that can deliver value, then you can discuss the commercial part of it. But it is possible, and this is technology enabled. You have been in a lot of tech companies, so you understand the capability that exists.
Absolutely,
yeah?
Sanjiv.
So, and it's great that you have moved from a tech enabled or tech company to a tech enabled company.
Sure.
Yeah? So it helps now, because now you are saying that education and everything can be brought on in a proper platform. So there are ways and means of doing it, but you can imagine the impact of such a platform that can bring into people.
Sanjiv, when you were describing this, the thought that was coming to me was you're democratizing healthcare.
Absolutely.
You're not leaving it to A party or to a B party or to a C party, but you're literally democratizing healthcare. And I think that's the need of the hour for a country like ours, where we have huge numbers to deal with. That's a fact of our nation. So this is a fantastic thought. But just pepper this with, do you think this is a model that would work for specialized healthcare, or it is also applicable and relevant to, let's say, general medicine? And again, in context of India as a geography or a region that we're dealing with.
I'll give you another example.
Sure.
Yeah, and which will make it clearer that why it should be so. I have a headache. It's such a general statement to make. Yeah. By the way, I'm not sure whether people know that one of the highest reasons for absenteeism of women in office is not the condition in the office and the environment, but is migraine.
Sure.
Yeah. So now, when you know that causes so much difficulty for a woman to be sometimes on a working space. Now, for every headache, the first treatment in India is Nimbu Pani. Yeah? But classifying that headache as to what it is,
what it could be,
is required. Now, tech can enable it to ask some 4 or 5 questions and demonstrate, okay, this 4 or 5 questions mean that my headache is a headache, my headache is a normal function of stress, my headache is actually could be migraine. Then that enabled system should be able to reach out to the doctor, nearest
and
doctor.
Take the next steps forward,
so,
right.
And therefore, from the smallest of issue to that issue getting classified maybe slightly, you can classify disease based on spectrum of let's say, difficulty
Right.
very easily through tech.
And we did that in COVID, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We had the automated system which was asking questions for people to self-diagnose, at least reach a level of diagnosis to say that, is it COVID or is it not COVID? Or is
Absolutely.
It could be. So these are very interesting thoughts, and I love the fact that they're coming from a pharma industry leader, because you're truly looking at how do I solve the problem of massive, massive numbers, massive scenarios, which may always not be in an ecosystem like ours, get the attention that they need. And hence that opportunity of creating an equitable healthcare where everybody is able to understand and then take the corrective action for the symptoms or the situation that they're currently facing. So very, very fantastic thoughts. And this conversation actually also reminds me of Up to Date, which is our solution from Wolters Kluwer. And we're talking about how doctors can always be up to date with the latest symptoms, with the latest scenarios, with the latest diagnosis, conditions that's brewing up. And I'm talking about a product which is truly the epitome of being up to date. We have 11,600 topics, some around 34,000 graphics that are genuinely reviewed and graded by 6,900 authors, editors, and peers. So imagine the concept of being aware of what's changing
Correct.
and being up to date.
Correct.
It's truly materialized by one of the solutions that we have.
Correct, correct. Absolutely.
So it's tech.
Yeah, it's
and
tech.
it is feasible to actually disseminate that information at the click of a mobile click. So it is feasible.
True, absolutely.
Yes.
And imagine for doctors to that knowledge dissemination, they have to travel to some place and then,
hear it from
somebody
an
has to
expert.
do
Yes.
travel decisions, somebody has to do catering decisions, all that is not required.
Absolutely, Sanjiv. So I'm going to go back to digital platform and like you have built and other pharma companies are also building for knowledge dissemination. Fantastic effort, I think, again, democratizing knowledge to a larger ecosystem. But how do we really make this a reality? Because we've seen some tech resistance at times. What has been your experience, how we can get more and more people to start consuming tech for this kind of scenario?
So I think there are three issues involved. There is awareness because of certain level of literacy.
Yeah.
There is health literacy and there is tech literacy.
Sure.
Yeah. So we confuse between the three and therefore we generalize what could be our product to deliver. If we are able to understand that these are different, then we will come to each other by saying, I have this problem, can you help me? And that could be the genesis of partnerships. The genesis of partnership should not be, I have this product and therefore, do you find it useful?
Right.
I think that is where probably we are putting cart before the horse. And that's where probably industry and tech industry is not yet starting to talk to each other in the right fashion.
Got it.
For example, you mentioned about Up to Date. Yeah. I might be having the same problem that, I don't have a place where knowledge is assembled together in the catalog form the way I want it. But then if I come to you with that problem, maybe you can solve it for me very easily.
Right.
Yeah. But I will say, oh, okay, that is what the product they are selling. I don't know, whether they can do it or not, whether what I need is not. So I don't think about it as what is my problem and how can they solve it through it. So that is probably the biggest hurdle.
That's the bridge that we have to.
That's probably the biggest hurdle.
Got that. Thank you so much on this perspective. We've spoken a lot about digital health, how it's needed for the country, how do we need to move forward in that direction. But how do we truly measure the success of digital health? There are a lot of KPIs that one may come to our minds, but in your opinion, Sanjiv, how do we measure that?
I think there are two major ways to measure that. One major way is actually not very rocket science, which we think through, is that how partnership are able to deliver more value to the patient, I think, or to the doctor, how that delivery is happening, and therefore you can have different measurement yardsticks for that. And probably it's an easier gradient to do. But the second thing that we need to work through is what is now strikingly getting used in a country like US is patient reported outcomes, PROs.
Okay.
Yeah, we had this real world evidence which was dominating story for a longer phase. But unless RW is combined with PROs, patient reported outcomes is a big, big thing. And that reach can only be exercised through technology
Got that.
or companies like yours who have a better reach and therefore reaching out to patients that way.
Got it.
Now, there are hurdles. The hurdles are about, ensuring patient privacy, ensuring that digital data is secure. So, there are many other things that are layered, but probably that is an easier issue to deal with because laws are clear, so you need to know how to operate that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But if we make that as something that, oh, how do I solve that first before I create a solution, then it's not going to work. But PROs and RWE put together can deliver tremendous value for enabled by basically by tech companies.
Got it.
But pharma knows how their product is delivering value, and doctors know really are my patients being taken care of properly.
Right.
Is this working or not working? Or are the patients suffering? Imagine patients sometimes suffer from simple things and they don't tell doctors. They take it as, this probably must be happening because,
On their own. Yes.
So simple thing like, ampicillin, causing diarrhea. Yeah. If the doctor doesn't tell, the patient will feel, oh, this drug is not good.
Absolutely.
But if the doctor tells or informs, then the patient knows. But why take that chance? Can technology enable that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, I think this probably the whole PRO story and obviously the adverse reactions portal, if they all come together, we might see fantastic data coming out for really knowing that what probably can deliver better healthcare in this country.
Interesting and very, very interesting thought. And I'm just wondering, Sanjiv, in your career so far, have you had an opportunity to really take this digital health and measure it also? Any example that you'd like to bring to forefront here?
So, quickly
I'm
I'll
sure
give
you have enough.
No.
But
Quickly I'll give you two examples. One example is even more than 10 years old. So, you can imagine that.
Wow, that long ago.
Yeah, that long ago, probably, we were probably, far ahead of what the curve was, and therefore probably, I don't know whether it was the right time then. Yeah.
Sure.
But look, in as I mentioned in diabetes, what we did was we created a call center with nutritional experts, all postgrads in nutrition at least. There were some PhDs there, yeah, who were doing call centers.
Wow.
Yeah. But what they connected is diagnostic company, doctors and patients.
That's a perfect ecosystem to
Yeah.
bring it all together. Yes.
Correct. And so they could manage the data, longitudinally very well. They could inform patients what you need to do. They could tell them what changes you need to make in your lifestyle. They could tell what exercise they needed. They could help the doctor saying that your 7 out of your 10 patients are doing okay, but these 3 patients are not doing okay because they are doing these things wrong. So it became a perfect ecosystem, and then we actually measured outcome based on who are on the program and who are not on the program. And you take any parameter, diabetes control, you take HbA1c measurements, you take blood pressure measurements, you take cholesterol measurements, everything was better in the control group.
This is just fantastic to hear, and the fact that this was done 10 years ago is just talking about the vision.
I started the program with my team in 2009, so it's even more, even
It's
earlier.
actually even much longer than that.
Even earlier. So by 2012 we had some results to show. So that is, today we had the new fertility bill, ART bill coming through. Yeah. Now many IVF centers don't even know how to go about it. They don't know who can certify them. We have a nice online system by which we help them with the law, with what they need to do, which agency can certify them, and this tech enabled basically. No?
Yeah, and again, I'm just saying this is so much wider than the typical pharma company purview. But
absolutely.
It's fantastic to hear that you're doing your bit to do the right things for the sector or the therapy areas that you're operating in, and truly make an impact?
I'm certainly not enamored by, you know, this trying to create a technology to interact with the doctor,
Okay.
to promote a brand.
Sure.
I think I'm not enamored by it at all. I think we don't need that. And most companies are trying to focus there for whatever reason. They might be right in their own way.
Sure.
I'm certainly not fascinated by that story. I think we have to create more value for whom we exist.
You know, Sanjiv, I knew that you had a lot of vision, honestly, but hearing all these factors, it's just reinforcing how you're thinking for the healthcare as a sector and not just for a pharma as an organization. So I think I would just say this is music to our ears, and it makes us feel very, very good to hear that, you know, pharma companies who are typically dealing in drugs are really thinking about how to make an impact in the healthcare space for the larger cause for the country. So thank you so much for this interesting example here. Something, and I was trying to put it very simplistically on the measurement part, while you spoke about some specific matrices here. For me, in the end, digital health subsequently should help us save more lives, and at the same time, improve the diagnosis, and hence not send the patient on a crazy spin to even figure out what is he or she suffering with. And I think I just wanted to quote one Harvard study that was conducted recently, where they evaluated if clinical decision support system, and namely UpToDate, when leveraged in a hospital environment, actually saved 11,500 lives over a span of a year, and almost 370,000 hospital visits. Now that's the power of tech again coming to play to say, simplistic, what is the end goal of healthcare? To save more lives and give right diagnosis so that people are not going on a spin. So
frankly, I'm not surprised. I actually, we are looking forward to companies like yours coming into play and being around, because I think, you need some people to disrupt the part which has always been, let's say, under a cloud, or we don't know what happened. Once a doctor writes a prescription and the patient buys a drug,
right,
what happens after that?
Anybody's guess is right now, yes.
Yeah, so
it's not captured well, it's not
your kind of company can help bridge that big gap.
Sure, Sanjiv, we're trying our bit to do whatever it takes to create tech that can help the healthcare ecosystem. I'm going to come to the last question, and that is about, we've spoken about the collaboration already, but I just wanted to add one aspect of even the government. The government has also started a lot of initiatives to promote digital health, like Ayushman Bharat program. There is tech company, there is pharma company, there is hospitals. In the end, what is that effective partnership, Sanjiv, that can help us really create that equitable healthcare?
I think there is a seminal paper in the government on digital health, which probably diagnoses the right things, but I'm still searching for a right solution. Let's say, I think we are all searching for a
framework, probably.
Yeah. I think the base of this diagnosis has come through from the fact that what are the problems to solve. That we have a doctor-nurse ratio to patients which is not great in this country.
Yes.
We have medicines that need to reach people and we create access for them. We have knowledge that is sitting everywhere but not disseminated in a way that is easier for everybody to access. Yeah. So we have all these issues.
Right.
And we are not, nothing is transportable. Like if I am a patient in Nasik and I am currently on travel to Jhansi, the Jhansi doctor, and I am not well, the Jhansi doctor is not able to access my record and say, okay, these are your issues, this is your history. Yeah? He has to recreate everything.
Right.
But if that can be done.
It would just change the game completely, right?
Yeah, so I think the diagnosis in that paper is probably extremely good, but what it needs is, more involvement of companies like yours, ours, or, patient stakeholders to really come in and say, look, this is what is our problem and therefore let's solve it accordingly. But I think the intention is right on everybody's part now. the capability now exists.
Right.
Yeah, we have to just take the next step. Like, we did not, as you mentioned earlier, nobody felt unhappy that, Chandrayaan-2 had a problem. Because people said, okay, we have made progress until here, we will make progress further, yeah?
That's right.
So, we have reached Chandrayaan-2. I think we should need what happened yesterday.
Absolutely, yes. No, I think fantastic examples and timing as well. Sanjiv, I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with you, and it's my privilege to really hear from you your thoughts on how can we create this digital ecosystem on healthcare. I'm sure anybody who's going to hear us is going to gain a lot from this conversation. So thank you once again, and our pleasure to have you in this conversation.
My pleasure. I think I would only wish all the best to companies like yours, because this is the future.
Thank you so much, Sanjiv. Thank you.